So welcome everyone. Today is January 24th, 2025, and this is Prime Event where we are going to talk about the coaching myths that we have in our industry that perhaps we need to clarify a little bit. So Amy and I are going to bring some ideas for you. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. Amy, where are we going to start? Well, before I pass the microphone to Amy, I would love to hear from you joining us. If you could put in the chat, where are you coming from? And where are you logging in from? It would be wonderful to hear where you are located right now. If you want to put your email address for people to connect with you, because this at Prime Coaching Academy, we always like to make connections and spark the conversation. So if you feel comfortable sharing your contact information so that others can contact you, that would be wonderful. Right? We want to cross-pollinate and learn from each other. But at least where you're calling from, it would be wonderful. We have people from Indianapolis, Middletown, Rhode Island, Seattle, Toronto, Calgary. Thank you, Canadians. We have London, UK. We have Wichita, Kansas, Denver, two from Denver. And I don't know if you are connected there, Mary and Darby. Madrid, Spain. Hello, Seamus. Wonderful to see you. And so please continue to put your names and contact information there as we continue the conversation. But Amy, where are we going to start here today?
Well, it's great to see all of you signed up. I wonder why. Kind of a juicy topic, isn't it? And Elias and I came upon this idea, just two of us talking. We're always saying, oh, it's so hard to get these points across because there's so many things that get drilled into coaches' heads as they're getting trained that they take as gospel and that it never wavers, right? And so we wanted to take some of these, what we call myths, and dispel them, or at least clarify on them. So without going into great detail, because we have 8 to cover, and Elias and I could spend an entire hour on just one very easily. Let's get started, Elias. You want to start the first myth we came up with?
This idea that coaches only ask questions. The only tool that we have is questions. Coaches only ask questions. Is that really true? Amy, what do you think?
I don't know. Is this anybody's coaching look like this? Hang on.
Oh, we have a little video to share with you.
Where do you live?
In the city.
Do you have a house?
Apartment.
On a rent?
Rent.
What do you do for a living?
Lots of things.
Where's your office?
I don't have one.
How come?
I don't need one.
Where's your wife?
Don't have one.
How come?
It's a long story.
Do you have kids?
No, I don't.
How come?
It's an even longer story.
Are you my dad's brother?
What's your record for consecutive questions asked?
38.
I'm your dad's brother, all right.
You have much more hair on your nose than my dad.
How nice of you to notice.
I'm a kid. That's my job.
You guys coaching like that? We came up with this one because a lot of times people will go through the whole first level of coaching and then that's their interpretation of coaching. You just ask questions. Just keep asking those questions. And this has been a source of controversy. For those of you who don't know me, I have been in the coaching industry for over 30 years. I was one of the people who helped set up the ICF, started the first round of core competencies. I was on the committee that created those. And so this particular myth sticks because of early day controversies we had over, do coaches share information or do they just ask questions? So with that said, Elias and I would like to dispel that myth and say, no, they don't just ask questions. Coaches do a lot of other things besides ask questions. Questions are just one of the tools that we have available in our toolkit to help clients come upon new awareness, all sorts of things. Oh, you guys all know the reasons why we ask questions. But what we do in our early training is we train people to ask primarily open-ended questions, because we help coaches develop that muscle before we take them into the next level of understanding and give you that next tool back that most people find very hard to not have in the beginning, and that is sharing information, offering perspectives and insights. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, but Elias, what would you like to add to this?
Yeah, there are many tools that a coach has in their toolbox. It's not just asking questions. Questions, open-ended questions, perhaps is the primary tool that a coach uses, but we don't only ask open-ended questions. We have the tool of acknowledging. Acknowledging is a fantastic and important and transformative tool that a coach has in sharing some acknowledgement and sharing support to the client. That is so important. We have the tool of reflections. Sometimes the client is saying something, and we reflect that back to the client. We just had this month, we had a prime hour that we talked a lot about the distinction between simple reflections and complex reflections. You can watch that video on our YouTube channel. And also it's a module that we have in our level 2 program that we talk specifically about that tool of how to offer complex and simple reflections. And we have also the tool of sharing information. And this is the second myth that we have that we would like to share with you here. So myth number 2, coaches don't share information. Is that true? Amy?
No. Coaches do share information, but it's not just blanket share information. It's how we share that information that makes the difference. And we're very specific about that, because when we share information, it really has to benefit the client in some of the ways that Elias just mentioned: acknowledging, challenging, really shining a spotlight maybe on something that the client hasn't even heard themselves say or recognized within themselves. How we share information has an invitational tone to it, right? We are inviting our clients to look at something maybe from a different perspective, maybe through our perspective. And so we enter into those conversations with an invitational tone where the client can either accept that information, reject that information, or modify it for what's true for them. And that becomes a tool for us to be able to, 7.1, to nail competency 7.1, which is evokes awareness. How many of you looked at that competency ever and thought, well, it seems like a pretty narrow lane when all I do is ask questions to evoke information? Yeah. And so sharing information is the other half of that. Our ability to be able to offer the client something to see themselves, their situation, their beliefs in a whole new light.
So we have one of the standards within our core competency, which is standard 7.11, the coach shares observations, insights, feelings. The coach shares observations, insights, and feelings without attachment that have the potential to create new learning for the client. Without attachment, that is a little, just 2 words within that particular standard that makes all the difference. And that's why in our Prime Coaching Academy training program, the module of sharing information is in our level 2 program, because it takes care for us to go into that particular skill. And the importance is not if we share information or not, but how we share information. What is the mindset that we have behind that sharing of the information? It's truly an art form, and there has to be a lot of self-reflection coming from the part of the coach, because we, in our day-to-day, we rely so much in in information, right? We rely so much in knowing. We rely so much in the expertise that we have, and look at all the accolades that I have, and look at all the 15 PhDs that I have on my wall, and the 150 years of experience that I have in that particular subject matter. So we rely so much on this on the day-to-day. We are prone to always giving information and giving advice. So in coaching, we tend to, in the beginning of the training, we spend a lot of time putting that at bay, resting that, taking a little break, so that we can give the space to the client. This is a moment of the client. Even when we have that the good intention, I'm sharing this because it's to support the client, right? But what is behind that is usually something about me and who I am. So there is a skill there for us, and a care that a coach needs to have when the coach decides to share information. And that's why we need to practice that. But coaches do share information, and in fact is even part of our competency. Just need to know how. And that's what we do in our training program. Shall we move into myth number 3?
We sure can. We're moving at a pace here, Elias.
Yes. What is myth number 3, Amy?
Coaches don't interrupt. How many of you think that's true? Raise of hands. No? Yeah, okay, Joe, sometimes Joe has the answer. That's true, sometimes. And again, it's how it's done. Our job as coaches is to facilitate the process and maximize the client's value in the coaching session. And so there are times when we have clients that go down rabbit holes, that can become quite verbal. Look at all the nodding heads. Yes, we. How do you manage that? How do you manage that without cutting off the client and cutting off the forward movement in the coaching session? Delicately, that's how, and sometimes bluntly. I sometimes go as far as to say, hang on a minute. When I've got a client who's really on a runaway train, because, and there's some you just get to know them, that's what they do. However, it's our job as coaches to evaluate the efficacy of the coaching process. The process is what we are the experts in. The process is what we are the stewards of. The client owns the agenda. The client owns the direction. The client owns the resourcefulness and the wisdom. We own the process. And that is, if you stick to that, it becomes easy to discern when and when not to interrupt. How do you determine with the client whether what they're saying is important, or are they heading down a rabbit hole? This comes from getting a really good session agreement. Really detailed, going into discovery very well, just in setting up the coaching session. And when we have a sound and good, solid understanding of that, when to interrupt becomes easy to see and easy to hear in a coaching session. Because we are tending to their agenda and managing the process.
I think it's very important to distinguish what don't we interrupt, right? So that's a great question to ask here. Yeah, coaches, as a bottom line, we don't interrupt. We don't interrupt the client's thought process. But oftentimes, not oftentimes, sometimes we have clients that the thought process or what they are thinking or the way they are processing their thinking is scattered and they get lost. I have a blog post that I created a couple of years ago that I wrote talking about the verbose client. clients that speak, and when they are and they keep talking and they have lots to say, how do we manage a verbose client? And I said in that blog that there are two kinds of verbose clients. One is the verbose client that is speaking, but you can clearly see that they are making sense. Their thought process is developing, and they are clearly putting one thing after the other, and based on their environment and based on their way of thinking, they are constructing, they're creating insight and movement forward for them. Those clients, we don't interrupt. We let them go. They are doing the job. That's what coaching is, right? Coaching is a thinking environment for the client to process. But you can see that some clients, they need a little help. They start here, they go over there, they go over here, and then all of a sudden they are even lost in the way that they are speaking. Those clients will need a little bit more framework and a little bit more support. And that's when we gently and we support them into building a path, building the framework for them to be able to continue their thought process. So the idea here is, what are we interrupting? If the client is having their thought process, we don't interrupt. But if the client's thought process is scattered and needs a little bit more support, that's our job to go there and support them. That's the distinction, right? So be careful with that in when you go. And also like the mindset again, right? Why are you interrupting? Are you interrupting because you must say something and because you have this brilliant thing to share with the client? Or are you interrupting to support the client's thought process? That's the distinction. Shall we go one more?
Let's do it.
Actually, we have 5 more, but let's go to the next one.
Okay. In coaching, we never talk about the past.
Oh, the past. No, we can't go there. That's therapy.
Anybody else been holding that real tight? Yeah, it's again, in training, for some of you, it may have gone through training, it feels like the third rail of where you get electrocuted. But that's in conflict, isn't it? With when we say we're coaching the whole person, if we shy away from their past, everyone's past informs their present and their future. It's part of who we are. It's what's made us who we are up to that point. If we're afraid to go there in coaching, even if the client brings it up, but you start to get uncomfortable, I often say we're energetic beings long before we're verbal and sight and all the other senses. We feel that energy. So your client will too. If you start going, oh no, they're talking about their mother, or their family dynamics or whatever. The past is very relevant. But the distinction here is when we go into therapy zone, how they talk about their past. Is it an issue that's affecting their present and their future, how they see their future and what they believe about their future? Or is it just a fact? I had a client tell me the other day, a relatively new client, I come from a family, I'm an adult child of alcoholics. And it's affected some of my thinking, and sometimes it impacts me in these ways. That's a fact. This is somebody who's self-aware. They've explored their issues. They're aware of them, how they impact their present, how they impact their future. And that's a relevant piece of information for me as a coach to understand that about them. I'm understanding the human being they are much better by hearing that. So heck yeah, we talk about the past.
Yeah, it's how the past shows up, right? It's that distinction. If the past shows up as a piece of information that informs us who the client is and informs even the client into a movement forward, yes, the past is welcome, right? We need to know where we are, how we got here for us to keep moving forward. So the past is very informative. But if the past comes as something that the client is still hooked on, or something that the client is still not quite resolved, if the past is something that it's bringing the client backwards to that place, right? That is something that we need to be mindful of. Coaching is a moving forward practice. So if the past inform us to move forward, the past is very welcome. But if the past brings us back and keeps the client hooked over there, so then it's something that we need to be mindful of, because then the client may need the support of a different professional. Okay? Excellent. People are asking in the chat about the verbose client blog post that I mentioned. Spencer put a link there for us. Thank you, Spencer. And Spencer is here. Spencer is our coaching specialist, educator here that we works together with us. So thank you, Spencer, for the support there. We will also republish that particular article at our Prime Edge website blog that we have on our website as well. We will republish that on February 1st, so stay tuned for that. Okay. Yes.
Can we just check in here for a minute and see? So, is anybody feeling a sense of relief here?
Okay. Mary Jane is like, yes.
I see. This is, these are the discussions we have around Prime coaching. So some of you have been on our Prime Hour. We talk about these sorts of things. And one of the things that we've both found is a lot of people go through training and they're always wondering about these things. They get certain notions about them, now all we do is ask questions and all that. And then they go off and they do coaching and they feel like they're doing something sneaky and wrong. When really what we're hoping to do is to open this up for you so your coaching can become much richer, and that you're not feeling these restraints to actually define these things instead of be afraid of them, or that you have to sneak them somehow and you wouldn't let any other coaches see you do that. This is a natural way of being with people, which we emphasize, right? And so to feel like you have to shy away from somebody's past or just ask questions restricts you from being in that natural space with the client.
Actually, Amy and I just recorded our Prime brief for this week, and we talk exactly about this: the role of competencies, the role of theories, the role of these standards in not only a coaching conversation, but in general in many different professions. And how do we balance the standards, and how do we balance the real core and objective of that particular practice? How often in coaching we start putting standards and competencies in the spotlight and we miss the client?
Yeah.
Right. So the standards and competencies are there, not that we're going to dismiss them, but standards and competencies are there in the supporting role. The primary, the person that the thing that is in the primary role, in the spotlight, is the client. Our competencies support us to connect with that human being. Right. If we reverse that, then it doesn't quite work. And so watch for the Prime brief that is coming out this afternoon, so you have a little bit more of that. But before we have four more.
Can I add something?
Yes.
Hang on. I want to add something to that, because this is a little known fact. As I mentioned earlier, I was on the committee that developed the original core competencies, and I want to just tell you what the intention of all that was. Those competencies were created to be a guideline to measure efficacy of coaching. They were never intended to be rules set in stone. They were intended to be a framework of understanding a level of competency. When they were meant to be taught, it wasn't in a linear fashion of competency 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because we're dealing with human beings, they shape and they form and they move and they do different things. But this gave us some sort of framework. The idea with the competencies is they come alive in the human-to-human exchange. And so I just wanted to say that because, again, a lot of people feel really restrained by these competencies, like the rules set on a stone tablet somewhere. And really, they're a framework to coach well and effectively. I'm sorry, I had to add that, Elias.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yes, I have to say this to going along with what Amy just said here. It's not that we are going to throw out the competencies, right? It's on the contrary, is that we are going to honor the competencies even more. It's that we are going to go behind the meaning of these competencies. Why are these competencies? What we are talking about here is no excuse for us to relax on our training, relax on our understanding. It's the opposite, is for us to go deeper into the meaning of that. Training, experience, competencies are crucial and foundational for every coach. And it's crucial for us. We are a training organization, right? Our training is based on the ICF standards. But what we are trying to do here is go beyond just the surface level of understanding of these competencies and have a stronger commitment to the core and the essence of what is happening there. And that is what oftentimes we don't discuss. We just talk about the competencies at a surface level. You need to do this, this, and this. Why? Right? Anyways, before we give the next 4 myths here, we would love to put a pause here, take a break, and we have to share with you a couple of announcements for you to be aware of all of the things that we have available for you here in Prime Coaching Academy. First one is we have our Prime Edge is a brand new blog that we started here. We have one article there that Amy created, but we are going to be adding blog posts periodically there. So please pay attention to that. It's a great resource for you. Of course, don't forget the Prime Space, which is our podcast. So you can find this on iTunes. You can find this on Spotify, and you can find this on our website as well. Please subscribe. Please share those episodes with other coaches. Please do a review for us. It all helps very much for people to get to know what we have available for them as well. We will have another Prime event on February 26th. At 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So put that on your calendars. We are going to have a coaching demo on that day. And not only a demo, we are going to have a demo, and then we are going to debrief that demo. We are going to dissect that coaching conversation. So please come, because it's going to be coaching, real coaching, right? We can talk about these concepts forever. Coaching happens in the coaching moment as well. So we are going to have that as well. And of course, every month we also have a free Prime Hour. Of course, the Prime event is also free, but we are going to have our free Prime Hour on February 10th at 4 p.m. as well. So please sign up for that event. The Prime Hour is much more conversational. We usually have a theme that we want to talk about, and everybody shares. So it's a wonderful way for you to connect with community. These are the events that are happening at Prime Coaching Academy. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn. We have our page over there, and we are always sharing something going on at on LinkedIn. And we have all of these videos also on our YouTube channel. So subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, so that you are connected with us. And we also want to let you know that we have open registration for our level 1 and our level 2 programs. So if you are considering starting your coach training program, we would love to have for you to consider us as your coach training provider. If you already have a level 1 program and you would like to continue your training, please come to level 2 program with us. And we have a few of our students here that have had the experience of working with us. So please, it would be wonderful to have you with us as well. And if you have any questions about our programs, Spencer Campbell is right here. He is our representative, and you can talk with him specifically. Spencer is going to put his email address there in the chat, so connect with him or send myself, or Amy an email as well. Okay. Anything else we need to say here? Announcements before we go into the next myth.
Nope. Let's myth away.
Let's myth away. So which one is myth number 5?
The one we tell on ourselves. So if a coach has an MCC, will their sessions always be at an MCC level? Ooh, juicy. What do you guys think? Well, I will tell you, we are just absolutely brilliant all the time, 100%. No, that is a myth. That is absolutely a myth that we're always coaching at this MCC level. The truth is we're meeting our clients where they're at. Sometimes clients come in at an ACC level or a PCC level, or they want to go really deep and we start using MCC level skills with them. We're always thinking through that lens because of course we've got the experience and we've, but not every coaching session is an act of brilliance. We have dull coaching sessions. We have coaching sessions where we hang up and say, did I just serve the client the best I could? Did I miss an opportunity? Oh, I heard that earlier. I kind of stepped over that. We do that too. Is that relieving to hear? We're not geniuses all the time. And so and I know that everybody spends a lot of time in the beginning and midpoints of their career. And what I'm saying here is at all points of our career, we should always be questioning ourselves for excellence. We should always be stretching our growing edge, whether we're MCCs or not. The minute we get lazy in what we do, we're not serving our clients. And that's really always needs to be what needs to be at the forefront is, are we serving our clients to the best of our ability based on what they're bringing to us? Has anybody had a client that took time to kind of evolve, to go deeper and into their own exploration? And yes, it has a lot to do with trust and safety, but it also has to do with the evolution of the client as to where they're willing to go. And so, yes, MCCs have sessions that aren't all that exciting and all that in depth all the time. So that's my answer, Elias.
Yeah, I remember very clearly many years ago going into one of these programs, and there was this very famous MCC, and she asked this question, do you think that just because I have an MCC, every coaching session that I conduct is at MCC level? And she said, no. And that was such a relief for me, right? Because we put so much pressure in us that we need to go and we need to do this and we need to do that. And if I don't do all of this, so then, someone put in the chat that the coaching police is going to come and right, it's so much pressure there. The bottom line is that we are meeting our clients to where they are. And just like I say, there are coaches operating at ACC, PCC, and MCC level, there are clients operating at ACC, PCC, and MCC level. We meet them where they are and we support them where they are. That's the most important. However, we as coaches, our commitment is to have our tools sharp all the time. And at any moment, we are there to utilize our tools. We are there to create the framework that is best for that client in that particular moment. So our commitment is commitment to excellency, but our commitment is a commitment to partnership. And we are there partnering with our clients and being where they are in the moment. And therefore, certain sessions will not necessarily be a session that I'm going to record and send for my MCC accreditation. And that's okay, right? The idea is here that I'm here for my client. I hope that gives you a little breathing room for you to be you when you are in front of your clients. Okay, excellent. Shall we go to the next one?
Yeah, let's do. If a coach follows the rules, that makes a good coach.
I know all of the competencies and I memorize them, and I know how to establish a session agreement, and I know how to ask open-ended questions, and I know how to facilitate client growth and bring the client into a movement forward. Oh, I am brilliant. Not necessarily so, right? Technique alone, and this is at the core of Prime Coaching Academy. Technique alone does not make a coach. I say this, if you have been in conversations with me, I always say that coaching is form and flow. Coaching is science and art. And it is the connection, both of them together, that support us into supporting our clients. If we are only following the technique, our sessions are going to be stale, right? Then the technique, the competencies are in the spotlight, not my client, right? On the other hand, if I only have art and intuition and listening and just paying attention and all of this, the session is going to be mush, right? It's not going to have anything. It's going to be like this mush of things and not very effective to the client. So the art of coaching, the mastery of coaching is in the combination of bringing all of the competencies, all of the standards that the coaching community has worked so hard during the past 2 decades to put this together. It's a combination of being very having in-depth understanding of these competencies, not superficial understanding, in-depth understanding of these competencies, coupled with humanity, art, flow, and that is where the magic happens. So just following the rules, it's important to know the rules, but just following the rules will not make a coach.
We use an expression. I practiced and taught martial arts for over 35 years. And there's an expression in Japanese martial arts. It's shuhari kokoro. And it's a description of what mastery means. The shu part, the beginning, we'd equate to ACC level, right? Where you get your foundation, you learn the rules, you get them down to a cellular level and have a solid foundation of understanding. That's why we take things away from you, like sharing information in the beginning. We want you to develop a new muscle of asking and inquiring based on your curiosity versus going to solution or tending to results. So you have to learn that foundation. That's the shu stage. The ha stage would be, we would equate to PCC level, where you start to bend the rules by bringing in some of the art form, by bringing in your own expression of coaching. So we bend the rules a little at PCC level. The re-stage would be equal to MCC level, where we transcend the rules. And what I mean by that is when you listen to a master coach, you would be hard pressed to be able to hear the framework, the form, the technique, and yet it is there. It is there, but it is so fluid because the coach has transcended the rules and it's become a natural way of being. And the kokoro part at the end means it's being done through the heart, connection to that other human being. And that you return to the basics in the kokoro stage. And what that means is that you are solid in the foundations of coaching. So it's a beautiful expression for what we do as well here in coaching. And it's a lovely expression to sum it all up.
Yeah, the connection of technique and the artistry. That's where the magic happens. And that's where we want to strive for as we support our clients. I love the Scultori idea here, Amy, this idea of the beauty and how we can utilize from even other modalities, even martial arts, how it shows up in many different points. Coaching is a human experience, right? It's grounded in the human connection. So you can see a lot of parallels of what happens in coaching that happens in other modalities and other professions, because at the heart is us. It's the humanity. It's the human connection, right? So thank you for that. Shall we go to the next myth? We have 2 more myths here. The next myth is we are all going to be out of a job because of AI. AI is here. There are no more coaches. So now we are going to just ask the robot to come and coach us. Is that true? Well, it's coming in the future, so we are not quite sure exactly what's happening over there, right? AI, I learned, I have one of the episodes that we have at Prime Space, I talk about AI. And I write it in that episode, I shared, like, I learned how not to doubt technology, right? Because technology, when you think that, oh, this would never happen, 5 years later, boom, there is happening. So it's not that we are saying that AI is not going to be able to conduct a very good coaching session. Maybe it's going to happen. I don't know. Have you probably seen that movie, Her, with Joaquin Phoenix, where he falls in love with an operating system, and it's the voice of Scarlett Johansson, and it's a fantastic movie, beautiful. And maybe we're going to get to that point there, or even beyond. Like in the Prime Space podcast, I talk about Data, the Star Trek character who is an android and is considered to be an individual. Not just a machine. There is even an episode of Star Trek where they consider is Data property, or is Data an individual? And at the end of the episode, they decide that Data is an individual, even though it's a robot, right? So yes, maybe we are going to get to a level of sophistication of technology that AI is going to have a real conversation with us. However, one thing I know for sure today, coaching is a human-to-human experience. And even if one day AI is able to completely clone myself to the cellular level, that is still going to be a copy. When I am with my clients, yes, there are competencies. Yes, there are skills. Yes, there are procedures, processes, and framework. But at the core of my conversation with my client, I strive to connect human to human, as Amy liked to say, heart to heart. And the human heart, no matter what the level of sophistication that technology is going to bring, that human heart cannot be replicated. So I am a firm believer that there will be plenty of work for us, even as the technology continues. And perhaps it's going to be even more in demand because of the humanity of what we do.
We are physiologically wired, and this is a part of neuroscience that is relatively unexplored. We have these neurons, they're called mirror neurons. And these are, so far, I think there's only been 16. I'm waiting to get an answer on this, but I think there's only 16 that have been discovered. But they believe we have many more. Mirror neurons start when we are just merely infants. And it's how we connect to our caregivers in early childhood. They start to develop. This is how we develop empathy and that heart-to-heart, human-to-human connection. We are physiologically wired for it. Many studies have been done on infants who did not have that caregiving, did not have that connection, did not activate these neurons, and how it impacts somebody throughout their entire life. And so that human to human connection, I don't care how many robots you make, we are physiologically wired to connect to other human beings.
Wonderful. So
Ready?
let's tap into that humanity, right? When we are coaching each other. Let's go to our last myth of the day here. Coaching is not seen as a serious profession.
Anybody agree with that? No? Good. Anybody sometimes wish you could call yourself something else besides a coach? You're not. Eric.
Yes. You know, it's so interesting that even when we ask the questions, there is hesitation in answering them, right?
Yeah.
It's that like, oh, I'm not going to go there. No, of course we are a serious profession. But what happens is actually it's that in the back of our minds, when we go and we want to talk with a client, with a potential client, we are still battling that sense of like, I need to make sure that this is serious. I need to make sure that the client understands that this is a legitimate practice. We still have this in our profession, even though we have grown tremendously and the marketplace is a lot more aware of the practice of coaching and understanding the value of coaching. There is still that idea that coaching, is this legit? Is this person legit here? What are your background and your experience? How can you be a coach and how can you coach a professional in the corporate arena if you don't have any corporate experience? How can you coach if you don't have a higher degree or something like that? There are still questions about this going on, and oftentimes, if we admit it or not, that shows up in how we address that particular conversation with the client. Let me share one thing with you here. Just one little fact. The coaching industry today is estimated to be a $15 billion industry worldwide. Coaching 30 years ago was nothing. And in just 3 decades, a little more than 3 decades, it became a global phenomenon. Every single CEO of a major organization has a coach or is looking for one. And it's trickling down to other levels of the organization as well. People can see it clearly that there is value in what we are bringing to the conversation. Yes, coaching is a self-regulated profession, and it is a self-regulated profession because the community wants the profession to continue to become a self-regulated profession because we want to self-regulate ourselves, right? And we don't want people who are not coaches and do not understand coaching being the one who regulates what we do. That is why it's so imperative for everyone making decisions in coaching to have a deep understanding of what coaching truly is. Because coaching is a business, but there is much more of coaching than the business. So that is an important aspect of that. The ICF has done tremendous work in research, in job analysis, working with subject matter experts to bring coaching to the level of standardization that we have today. And it's not just our competencies. There is way more standardization of credentials, standardization of the accredited programs that are offered by the ICF. We have more than 50,000 credentialed coaches around the world. Right? Every organization nowadays understands if you want to work for an organization today as a coach, they are also always asking a minimum of a PCC level credential. So there is huge legitimacy in what we do today. And sometimes coaches haven't caught up to the fact that of all the work that we have done as a community, especially through our main body of standardization, the International Coaching Federation, to make this profession as legitimate as we are today.
And can I add here? Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Elias. The legitimacy of this, and the reason we brought this up as a myth is because I've heard on one-on-one conversations with a lot of coaches, this feeling of imposter syndrome, or there are people out there calling themselves coaches doing wackadoodle things. Let's all admit it, right? And a lot of times people say, well, why can't they get these people out of there and have some means testing? This was never the intention. Coaching was intended to be a disruptor. We decided in the early days, open the doors wide, let's see who comes in. And here you all are, 30 years later. I can't believe what this thing has become. What happens when we don't own the legitimacy of our profession and the credibility of it, we begin watering it down, meaning that coaches will go out and do transactional coaching on behalf, because the money's in the organizations a lot of times, and they will do results-based coaching without ever developing the person, the whole person, to create sustainable change through, and I'm using this talk, and I do a lot of executive coaching, as this heart-to-heart coaching, this human-to-human thing we're talking about. A lot of coaches find it hard because they feel they're going to lose credibility in those arenas if they start going there. And so they start to water down their coaching to be very transactionally based, very results-based. And yes, results are important. We want results. But results as a byproduct of the development of the human being, the evolution of the human being. It's what it was always intended to be. It's where the strength is, where the magic is in coaching. And so this being our last myth, I want to encourage all of you, if you have doubts or reservations about the credibility of this profession and what it is, call me. I'll tell you where it was and what it does. And a lot of you know that. You've had those moments with your clients. Leverage it.
Fantastic. I hope that this inspires you to go and coach and connect with our clients, with your clients, and be that agent of change and transformation in creating that space for the client to thrive. That is our goal, and that's our inspiration goal here for you. We have a few more minutes here, and so before we go, maybe you have a question, or you have a comment, or you have something that you would like for us to address here. We would love to open the microphone here for you.
Thanks, Joe. Mission accomplished.
I think
I love the comments there. Yes,
yeah.
Lisa.
I think I just have a question around how coaching shows up in internal organizations, because I think the legitimacy of coaching can often be questioned quite a bit in that environment, in terms of, they may see it as, you're trying to be a therapist. They may see it as you're spying on them and you're going to tell their leader all the bad things that they're doing or what they can't do, like all of those kind of different pieces. So I think that's one of the things that we're contending with in the internal organization.
100%, Lisa. That we are still a new profession and people are still learning of the power of coaching. When we talk about, this particular myth, first of all, we as coaches, we need to understand and have absolutely no doubt about what coaching is about and how we are going to share with the client, because it is right there in that moment that we are going to educate that particular person who has doubts or has misconceptions about the coaching process. It is in that conversation that we need to be very clear of what is the proposition of coaching, what we're here about, and what we are going to share with them. When we share that with hesitation, when we are not clear of this myth, We are not clear of the potential of coaching, of the strength of coaching. Then when we are going to have that conversation, of course, it's not going to be clear either, right? So it starts with us, but each one of us, we are ambassadors to this new profession. And it is in the way that we communicate with these people that, you know, they don't know, that is going to make a difference right in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Is that helpful, Lisa?
Yes, thank you.
Knowledge is power. By people being more knowledgeable about what it really is, the power comes in. And there's always those champions in the organization that will enroll people in coaching because they're passionate about it and they are able to articulate it properly without hesitation, to Elias's point.
So thank you, everyone. We are going to let you go at this point here. We hope to see you next month on February 26th for our next Prime event and that coaching demonstration. We also hope to see you at Prime Hour on February 10th at 4 p.m. Come and register with us. And hopefully you're going to join us for one of our coach training programs, either at level 1 and level 2. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you next time. Take care.